Welcome to Narratives and Nightcaps. In today's special episode, we're talking to author LaDarrion Williams. LaDarrion's debut novel was released just last month. It's a young adult fantasy called Blood at the Root. Before we talk all about that, LaDarrion is also an LA-based playwright, filmmaker, and screenwriter who focuses on a new era of Black fantasy. He is currently a resident playwright and co-creator of the Black Creators Collective. Welcome to our show. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
As I was saying to you, I've seen so much about your book and it just made me all that more excited. But congratulations too on the launch of this and everywhere that I've seen you. How has this, past month been for you?
It's been it's been wild. It's things are starting to kind of I don't even know if it's slowing down because I'm working on book two. I'm getting ready for actually a playwriting residency that I'm leaving in a few days, and I'm going to be away for a month. And but it's just been great just to see the reception of Blood at the Root and just online and people making TikToks, people making people are having a whole Twitter discussion about it. Some are tagging me, some are not, and it's just so interesting to see it. But it's been amazing. It's been everything. My debut year has been everything that I've dreamt of, and so I'm just really grateful that people are really supporting the book, and not only the book but the audio book. People are really falling in love with the audio book right now. And it is so cool. It's just so cool to see different readers tapping in. So I'm grateful.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
One, who narrates your audiobook?
Yeah. So his name is Jalen Hall. He's an amazing young actor. You can catch him on he stays booked. You can catch him on All American on the
show.
CW. Yeah, they just got renewed for season 7, so congrats to them. You can catch him. He plays young Martin Luther King, I believe, in the on the National Geographic King and X that biography film.
Cool.
And he's on Disney's crossover, so he's booked all over. So Jalen Hall narrates Malik in the audiobook, and from what I'm being told, he provides such a great listening experience. It's very interactive. It's very it just sounds like a kid, kind of like a 17-year-old kid reading the book,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just. I don't know. It's very theatrical, and I'm hearing he's doing accents. I haven't listened to it yet because I want to let it die down a little bit, and because I'm in book 2 land. But it's just, yeah, Jalen Hall is an amazing young actor that agreed to do this.
Perfect. That's amazing. I'm just always so curious about the audio experience because Bree and I actually just talked about this with someone else on the podcast, whether we were an audio book versus Kindle versus hard copy reader. So I love a good audiobook that has a wonderful narrator that brings it all to life. So that's why I was asking that question.
Yeah.
And then I know you mentioned you're traveling a lot next month, but have you had to travel quite a bit with the launch of Blood at the Root as well?
Definitely. I traveled to Ohio. I just left Alabama, my hometown, to do my Alabama launch. So that was really cool to see my friends and family that I grew up with come to a Books A Million in our hometown, the same Books A Million that I used to go to when I was in high school and buy the Twilight books when they first came out and all that. And just to be in that space of releasing my book, it was just such a full circle moment.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really cool. I got to travel to Auburn, not Auburn University, but the town Auburn in Alabama to do I worked with an amazing indie bookseller down there, Auburn Oil Company booksellers. They've been very supportive. So I got to go down there. Obviously, I went to New York. I got to do Good Morning America and the Ebony magazine. I know, it was so cool. I got to be I got to live my theater kid dreams for a week. And I'm going to be traveling more. So I'm setting up my own tour right now. So I'm going to be going back to Atlanta. I'm going to be going to Houston, Texas. Now everybody's come to Dallas, come to Dallas. I'm like, okay. Now I'm going to be going to Chicago and DC, to hit those areas as well. So it's been doing a lot of traveling this year.
Good. That's always so exciting too, just to especially if you haven't been there before. I'm glad to hear you going to the Midwest. That's where I'm situated. So I'm Hello,
Yeah,
Chicago,
apparently,
Ohio.
apparently they say a lot of authors don't come to Chicago or like, I'm going to Ohio for a book festival. I think it's like the Columbus Book Festival next month. So yeah, it's just a lot of traveling, and
Yeah.
it's really cool to be flown out and to kind of have like a free little vacation a little bit. So it's fun.
Yes.
It's cool to be talking about it with you now. So a lot of the authors we talk to, it's like right before their book comes out, which is
Yeah,
still really neat and exciting. But oftentimes we're like, what are you looking forward to? And they're like, I don't know, whatever happens. So it's really cool to
yeah,
like hear someone that's in the midst of it and you're speaking to all of these different experiences that you're having. That's just we don't always get that. So that's really
yeah.
neat to be able
Oh,
to
I'm
hear.
glad. Yeah, that's so cool. I'm glad to do that. It's here. It's out. The book is out, and it's yeah. So it's just a different experience.
Let's talk about that. So, for people that are listening,
Yeah.
what is Blood at the Root about?
Yeah, so Blood at the Root is a young adult contemporary fantasy. It is about a Black kid named Malik Barron who gets accepted into a magical HBCU called King University. It's in the backwoods of Louisiana. He must go there to learn about his ancestral magic, meet new friends, take classes, but also uncover some dark secrets surrounding his mother's mysterious disappearance. Because apparently she went there and she never told him, and she's been missing for quite some time. And now he has to investigate, faculty, professors, students, because they may or may not have something to do with her disappearance. So that's what Blood at the Root is about.
And it's so like right from the beginning, the mystery element too. You're just hooked immediately with all of that. Oh, you really suck people right in. Okay, I really hope you're not tired of talking about it. So, but can you go into like the background of really
Yeah.
how this book came to be? Because I've read articles about it and I know you've talked about it, but that was one thing. You have such an incredible story for how this book actually got to be this published book that it is. Can you tell us about it?
Of course, yeah. So it's a myriad of things, but what really sparked Blood at the Root, I always say that it wasn't supposed to be a book. It was supposed to be a television series. So during the pandemic, we're all stuck inside eating snacks and watching endless amount of Hulu and Netflix. You're on Twitter and social media, and you just spew out like random thoughts, right? I don't know why. I just tweeted, I was like, yo, like what if like Harry Potter went to an HBCU? Because I'm a part of the writing community. So I tweeted that out, and the tweet kind of blew up, and it was just people were like, oh my gosh, you gotta make that, or you gotta write that. That would be so cool. That's something we've always wanted to see. And I was like, I can't make it because it's the pandemic and we can barely get hand sanitizer and toilet paper. I can't just go out and make a whole, movie or TV show. But I saw that there was a need for it. I saw the reactions, and so I put pen to paper. Um, I don't. It was random. I just wrote like about this kid going to a magic. He literally gets accepted into a college, a magical college, and so um as I was tweeting about writing it like people were like my following count kept growing and growing. People were messaging me and saying like you really need to make that. And so I was like, okay. I called my friends up. My friends are actors and cinematographers and just my whole tribe. And I was like, y'all, I know it's the pandemic, but do y'all want to go out and shoot a short film? And everybody was like, let's do it. And I was like, okay, we were safe. Nobody got sick. Thank God. And so we shot the short film all over LA. We snuck onto the UCLA campus. We didn't get arrested, thank God. But we kind of cheated the college, but we actually shot at a college. So we were running around UCLA, just shooting like little scenes. And as we were shooting it, I figured that I was like, yo, this is something very special. Just for like this, because I barely had a script. I just had the story. And when we released it, people were having like watch parties, and because we released it on YouTube and Amazon Prime, so people were like, "Oh my gosh!" It was like this whole phenomenon on writing Twitter. And I'm thinking Hollywood was going to come calling because I had the viral script, I had the viral short film, and I was submitting to all these film festivals, and then I thought like Hollywood's going to give me that multi-million-dollar deal to
This
make
is
it a
it.
TV show or a movie. And as things were opening up, they didn't come calling. I actually was having doors slammed in my face. Like I was emailing people, production companies and agents and managers and directors, and nobody was getting back to me. And that started happening for a year. And the hype behind the short film kind of died down. And it made me very depressed, to be quite honest. Because I was like, I felt like I failed my friends. I felt like I failed the audience members on social media. And so as I was like in my depression, my friend was like, yo, maybe you should turn it into a book. And I was like, okay, I don't know. I haven't, because I stopped reading because I grew up when I was in high school. I remember there was the midnight releases of like Twilight and like
I was there.
Hunger Games. Yeah, right. I remember those moments, like, and I was like, I don't know, YA, when I was reading YA, because the reason why I stopped reading, I was like, I wasn't seeing myself. I wasn't seeing my friends or my culture, like the way, the South being represented in these books. And so I was like, well, let me go, because I started hearing about Children of Blood and Bone and like the Hate You Guys. I was like, okay, it seemed like YA is starting to become more diverse. And when I went to the Barnes and Noble out here in Burbank, I was like, hey, I'm looking for some YA fantasy titles. But at that time, I was like, I'm looking for like Black boys as the main character. Like, and plus it was a lot going on. And we all know it was a lot going on with COVID, and also just civil unrest, like after George Floyd and everything. It was a lot happening.
Yeah.
And so I needed to escape, right? Because I remember books used to let me escape into other worlds. And I was like, I'm looking for a book with a Black boy lead. I don't want any police brutality. I don't want any of that. I just want to see a magical story with a Black boy. And the clerk, we walked over to the YA fantasy section, and she looked up and down, and I looked up and down, and she was so embarrassed because it was like a good 5 minutes of us just like pulling books out, and we weren't really finding anything. And she was like, I'm so sorry, we don't have anything. And I was like, it's not your fault. It's publishing. You can't stop something that's not there. And so from that moment, I was like, okay, I guess it's time to write the book. And so I went back home after leaving that store. I went back home. I locked myself in my apartment for 12 days, living off of Cheez-Its and Oreos. That's the most healthy writing snack, right? And I created this first draft of this book based off of the short film that I wrote like a year prior. And I was like, oh, I guess I have a book, but I didn't know how to go about publishing it. So I was like, I'm going to self-publish it because people want the story. And and when I was working with an editor, my friend, like, no, this needs to be traditionally published. And I was like, I don't know. I don't think publishing wants a story like this, because it's with the Black boy lead and he doesn't deal with police brutality. It's literally about him dealing with his ancestral magic. And eventually I signed with an agent that summer, and we worked on it for a while, and we got so many rejections from a lot of editors and publishers. For it was getting so bad. Literally, I felt like how Hollywood was treating it. I was like, it's not going to happen, and I couldn't peel myself out of bed at most days because I was just so depressed. Because I was like, if this fails, I spent, at this time it was 2 years of my life on the story. And I was like, I can't deal with this anymore. And I was so dramatic at the time. I was very, very dramatic. But 4 months later, January, in 2023, January 19th, we ended up getting an offer from Penguin Random House, the best publishers in the world. They offered me a 3-book deal. And I was in the middle of doing Lyft. So I was working Lyft, and I pulled over to the side in downtown LA, and my agent called me and said, you sold the book. And that's how it happened, and that's how Blood at the Root came to be.
Oh
You
my
just give me
gosh.
chills.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm curious, your rejection process. Obviously, a lot of people go through that, unfortunately. With
Yeah.
Hollywood specifically, did you feel like that was more attributed to the pandemic timing of everything, or was it more that they didn't want to hear a story like that?
I think it was both. Because looking back now, I'm like, well, it was the pandemic. Like it was a lot going on in the world. Like things
Right.
were shut down, and I kept I kept saying that, but then again, I would talk myself out of that mentality because people were going viral on social media and they
Right.
were getting offers for TV shows, or not even just offers for TV shows, but offers of representation. I couldn't even get representation off of that script. And I was like, well, I have the viral short film, I have the viral script. And I was making TikToks at that time, and my TikToks were going viral. So I was like, what's the problem? What's the disconnect here? So I think it was a little bit of both.
Okay.
Timing, but also you as a screenwriter, you will always hear, oh, this network is looking for this type of story. And every network they were looking for like that Harry Potter type of story,
Mm.
but with diverse characters. And I was
Mhm.
like, hello.
Got it.
I got it.
And so yeah, but I think, I think it's one of those, it was literally perfect. It was perfect timing because all those rejections and all those no's, they were literally seeds. Like I was planting the little seeds, and like you go through the winter storms, and you go through the rain and the hot something. Like you just don't know. You can't once you plant something, you can't control how it grows, right? So,
Right.
and that's what it was. That's what the lesson that I'm learning as I'm navigating my debut year. Is that everything that led up to the GMA, the New York Times, everything. I was planting those little seeds with the short film that we shot on to say a shoestring budget is actually it's giving it a lot. All those rejections from those short film festivals, like I got rejected from Sunday, all the big ones, Sundance, all of those, but those were seeds that I was planting in fertile ground. And now it's here, and now it's kind of like that "I told you so" moment. I'm trying, I'm a Sagittarius, so I'm trying not to be petty. So I was like, I tried to tell y'all, everybody that doubted Blood at the Root, I tried to tell you. And so, my agent was like, you can gloat a little bit, just gloat, don't be arrogant, but no, because it was a lot of hard work, and it was literally a lot of ups and downs, a lot of false promises. To get to this moment. So yeah, the rejection was real, and I do feel like sometimes writers don't like to rehash over that, but I try to be transparent as much as I can about my rejection process because it really does mess with you mentally, and I turned to food, I turned to depression, and I was just and jealousy, because I was seeing everybody else getting their dreams, and I was like, what? I'm putting in just this amount of much work. Why is it not happening for me? So, and that's something I had to heal from during the pandemic and navigate because it's real,
I was
and I
gonna
try to
say,
be transparent. Yeah.
it's such a real part of the publishing process. And to your point, most people don't see that. Like you see the end, but you don't see the years of
Mm,
hard work that someone put
yeah.
into it. And they don't all talk about it. And I can get that, but I appreciate the transparency too, because I mean, your story itself is, but then just your entire process is so inspiring for the writers that are getting the no's. And
Hmm.
especially for your debut book, that can be so discouraging, but like your determination and still picking up and saying like, okay, no, I'm not done yet, I'm going to keep doing this, is
Yeah.
so impactful. I mean, I was even talking with a writer not long ago, and it was like one no, and it just kind of sent them on a spiral of like,
Oh.
I just can't, like, I think I'm a terrible writer and all this. And I was like, no. Like,
Uh,
no, it's okay. I was like, this is a part of the process. I know it's so hard. So the fact that you have gone through it and it hasn't just happened overnight. And I know that those years were still so hard, but to see where
yeah.
you are now and what this book is so incredible.
It's so cool. Like just to hear my friends were like, man, I remember when you were like just struggling just to try to get this idea out, and you felt like nobody was listening. Because I literally was tweeting about Blood at the Root before I even had the book deal, right? Before I even had the book, I was tweeting about this story, and I'm pretty sure I got on a lot of people's nerves. But people are like, man, people probably like. I had some people that was like, dude, it's just not gonna happen. Like, just give it up. And then those same people came back into my DMs, like literally once I announced the book, they were like, "Man, you really did it." And I was like, "Well, yeah, like I tried to tell you." Again, it's like those tried to tell you moments, but no, like I try to tell writers, like, look, it's not all glamorous. You're going to get no's. Like you can't let that one no take you out. And I kind of get it, and it depends, right? Because you get that one no that you're so close. Because there was moments where editors took my book to auction, and it completely like flatline. That's where it was getting like really for me. I was like, I cannot do this anymore because what like you dangled the little carrot in front of me
Oh.
and now you snatched it away. Like, but I landed at the right place with the right editor, Lisa Abrams. Shout out to her, because she took a chance on Blood at the Root and she saw the value in it, and I'm just grateful that she did. And now we're working on book 2, and it's so wild. It's just a wild journey. And once you get that, I try to tell writers once you get it, it's still there's still going to be battles and fights, and you just never know. You just never know when it comes to your experience. You just got to make your experience and drown out the negativity and the bad things. So yeah.
I love the concept that everything was a seed, like I
Yeah.
just had to plant this one moment, this one aspect, this one tweet, this one video, and just let it grow and see what happens regardless of the depression that you might have felt at the time too. I just love that you never like pulled it back. You were just,
Yeah.
you still put it out there. And I think that's a huge piece of advice for, I mean, even non-writers, I think, just trying to launch yourself or a program or whatever opportunity you
business,
think you
yeah.
can create, just keep moving forward, keep planting those seeds.
Yeah, definitely. It's such a because it's a roller coaster, like for real. Like like I try to, I have friends who are into music. I have friends who are actors. Like, my friend he was really down about acting and like not booking. And I was like, dude, and it is so. And being on the other side, I know it can become annoying because I was annoyed with it too. Like, just keep going, just keep chugging. Like, no, I was like, dude, you see where I'm at, right? I was just on the other end while you were booking the big stages on to act. And I was, and he's a theater actor, so I'm a playwright as well. So I was complaining about like being rejected. I was like, just a year and a half ago, I was complaining about being rejected, and look where I'm at now. Please, like, I'm not trying to be like, look all high and mighty, but like, look at where I'm at. Like, if you just keep going, if you keep like planting those seeds, and sometimes you have to pivot, right? Because I had to pivot. I literally saw Blood at the Root as a TV show,
Right.
and I was like, it's going to be that, it's going to be that. But then, whatever you believe in, right? God, ancestors, whatever spiritual system you believe in, it was like, no, it's going to be this first, and then we're going to come back to this. Sometimes you have to pivot. Sometimes you have to detour, and your detour may take a shorter time. It may take a longer time. It's okay as long as you get to that destination. You keep moving.
Right.
It's all right. So don't get me preaching, but
No,
like
that's so well said. Okay,
yeah.
so I wanted to ask this about your writing too, but since we're talking about it, do you think like having connections in the acting world and theater and playwriting experience, do you think that also like prepared you for the rejections too? Because I was talking with another author who also has a theater background, and she said that she felt like that experience helped her like she was used to no's. She was used to people, shutting the door in her face, and not everyone is used to that if they haven't been in the theater world specifically. Do you think that contributed at all?
Definitely. It's so interesting. So the program that I just got accepted in is called the Eugene O'Neill National Playwrights Conference. So it's one of the biggest playwriting conferences in the country. Like thousands of people all over the country and the world apply to this, and they only accept like 5 people, right? And I got in. But
Congratulations.
thank you. It's been oh Lord, like, but I've been applying since I was like 19, and I'm
Wow.
31. So I posted that the other day. I was like, after 10, 11 years of applying, I finally got in. And so imagine just getting that letter every single year. Like, we loved your play, but unfortunately this, or unfortunately, we loved your audition, but unfortunately you weren't, selected for this program or this play or movie or TV show or whatever. It definitely set me up on a lot of things, but also it set me up on my my journey is not it's just not the traditional way sometimes. Because one, I was a black kid from Alabama, poor black kid from Alabama, 6'3", 300-pound black man doing theater. So my trajectory, my journey is different from from a 150-pound white kid who can sing show tunes. It's just our paths are not going to be the same. And going to the type of college that I went to, I was going up to the cast list every single audition and seeing all the other white kids get to play on the big main stages, and I we're relegated to the side or a slave character or not getting a role at all. That literally prepared me for everything. And sometimes I do take rejection personal because some stuff I'm like, that's getting produced. Okay. So sometimes I do because it's just a fight. It's a fight for everybody. And I don't have the fanciest degree. A lot of writers in my cohort, like in my debut class and even beyond, they got degrees from Yale, New York University, Carnegie Mellon. They got all these fancy degrees, right? I'm a college dropout that moved to LA when he was 21 years old to make a name for himself. So my path is not the traditional path because I had to pivot and detour. I had to produce my plays on my own and put up everything that I had in my bank account to rent out this theater space in LA, and only having 5 people show up or less than 5 people show up sometimes. I had to produce my own short film, right? Because Hollywood kept telling me no. And then I was going to self-publish my own book, but thank God traditional publishing said, okay, yes. But so definitely theater definitely prepared me not only for rejections, but the way I write characters, the way I write stories and dialogue in books and all of that. Theater really opened me up to a lot of things, not only craft-wise, but personally, like rejections and dealing with the ups and downs, because theater is tough. It's tough to break into.
Yeah, you fought literally every step of the way to be here. So it's interesting too, because we never really thought about it. And then all of a sudden we were interviewing these authors, and so many people were like, my theater experience contributed to my writing, contributed to my dialogue too. And so the second I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, like another person that it really does. I know you said I never wrote a book before, but I feel like it really does help people when they have that background and that knowledge to then turn something into a book, which is really cool. And dialogue specifically, Jenny Myers Sane, I was listening to her give writing advice, and she goes, I always tell people to read plays. Like, yes, read books. She's like, but yeah, she goes, read plays, because you understand dialogue more, because that's all the play is relying on to really move a story forward. And so I think it contributed so many different ways to you. With your writing and development process. So I love fantasy. It is like probably my favorite genre. Although we read a lot of different things, but Megan knows this. Like I like love fantasy. So can you talk about the development process of, structuring like the ancestral magic and creating this magical HBC, this university? Like, how do you do that?
A lot of Pinterest, a lot of hours on Pinterest. Yeah, I love Pinterest boarding. Like I'm a nerd about that. Well, the magical HBCU component of the story it was kind of coming from a place of one, regret, because I didn't get to go to an HBCU. I went to a PWI in Tennessee, and two, it was kind of like to heal from that experience. Because I wanted to create like a college that I always dreamt of, right? Going to classes, seeing like the drum lines and seeing like, having friends and going to the college book, the block parties and all of that. So I really wanted to have that, but to add the magical component to it, because you always hear that HBCUs are magical. And for those who don't know what an HBCU is, like it's a historically Black college and university. So, for example, I'm from Alabama, like Alabama State, Alabama A&M, There's like Morehouse in Georgia. There's Howard, which is the most,
Florida
famous.
A&M.
Florida
Uh,
A&M, yes.
yeah, my husband dad is the baseball coach there. So,
Oh,
but now,
okay.
but I didn't know that they had like magical history or elements. So now I want to ask him about it for
Yeah,
Florida.
there's like just like again, the start of the HBCUs were created by enslaved Black people, right? They couldn't go to Harvard or I guess Yale was around at that time. I don't know how old Yale is. Forgive me. But so they had to create their own college and their own university, but also within it, they created their own like clubs and classes. So I was like, oh, how about I apply that into a fantasy novel?
Mhm.
Because we get it. High school is a special form of, it's special, but like, can we see more college? Like, because college is such a different world, right? Like, pun intended from the show, but it's literally a different world. And to place this young boy, Malik Barron, who is 17, who is emancipated from, again, not going the traditional route, right? He didn't have the traditional prom and graduation. Now he's placed into this new world because we don't really talk about the new adult age of like literally graduating from high school, right? You're so used to, for some people, used to getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, getting on the bus, talking with friends, going to eat breakfast, go to class, go to baseball practice or basketball practice after, and then you have to do it all over again for 5 days out of the week, right? But what happens when you graduate and you take that routine away from a lot of kids? Some people don't go to college. Some people do. Some people go to community college. And so I really wanted to have this kid go through this really transitional moment in a book, but also adding magic to it because he's so used to having like this ability, but he's not used to seeing people advance more than him, at this school, and also learning about his history because history right now it's very tough in a lot of, especially from the South. Black history is being erased from the classrooms. And so
I live in Florida.
Yeah.
Amen. So enough said. No, Florida's beautiful. Like there's a lot of beautiful things about Florida, but yeah, no, it's just like the classrooms, and so it's so important, right? Not only to add, because fantasy lovers, we love the magic, we love like the epicness of like fantasy stories, right? But for me, I want to make sure I add in historical moments that people don't even know. Like I didn't learn about the Haitian Revolution until I was in my 20s. But that was due to being a graduate of Alabama school system, because I was like, we learned about Greek history, we learned about Romans, we learned about this and this, but we didn't learn about the Haitian what? And so I wanted to have those moments. So again, I think it's kind of like flipping the genre on its head a little bit for me. One, we never seen a magical HBCU in a YA fantasy before. And two, it's kind of like reclaiming, like, I know JK is just she doing a lot. She girl, like what? It's like, ma'am, can we not? But it's kind of like taking that monopoly away from her about magic schools, right? And Hogwarts is not the only school. Even though I said, what if Harry Potter went to an HBCU? But it's so much deeper than that. With Blood at the Root. This kid gets to go there and learn about his history, his ancestry, and he gets to see people that look just like him, doing the impossible. They get to fly, they get to run really fast, they get to cast really cool magic, right? With magical spells. And so that's what really made me interested in creating a magical HBCU, is this sense of a world that we really don't get to see in YA fantasy. A lot, kind of like how Tony did with, the Orisha, right? Like in introducing people to a different type of folklore and mythology, and also still instilling that southernness into it. Because I'm Southern bred, like I'm from Alabama, like, but still incorporating the history of the South into it. So that's what, I hope I answered your question. That's what made me interested in
You
the
did.
magical.
No, but I love you went beyond to explaining like all of the layers with it too. And I mean, it started making me think a lot more about other books that I've read specifically in the fantasy genre, and like they don't have the layers that you've really incorporated into this story, which I just think is
Yes.
so powerful, not to use like a magical term, but
No,
it
yeah.
really is. It's just, and it's so fascinating to hear you talk about all that went into that development process and really
Mhm.
what you wanted it to be. Malik and Tay, I want to talk about them because they have just this amazing bond. Was there some, and great dialogue too, I should add. Like I love their relationship, but was there a specific relationship that you had personally that inspired the like what they are in the book?
Yeah, I think I have a 12-year-old nephew that's literally going on 30. Um um but also, and I'm glad you asked that question because it seems like a lot of people are starting to pick up on the relationship between Malik and Tay now. Like, even though, yes, the magical HBCU component is really cool, and it's really cool to see people time traveling and fight, but the core of the story is Malik's love and protection of Tay.
Yeah.
Because, and Tay is starting to become my favorite character because Tay is Tay is me when I was a kid, like the innocence, right? Because I feel like, and a lot of times with Black boys at that age, our innocence gets stripped away from us,
So that's
right?
what I was gonna say is like he's innocent, but I also when I read him, I'm like, this is someone that had to grow up too fast.
Too fast, yeah. And it's because it's a reality for a lot of kids, right? I wanted to make sure that storyline was very not inspiration, I don't know what word, people can see themselves in it, right? They can connect to it, because it's so beautiful. And I always think, I was telling somebody else this, like, Malik always says, I want to give Tay the childhood that I never had because he deserves to be a kid. And it's like, it's beautiful, but it's heartbreaking at the same time because, like, Malik, you're still a kid too,
Right.
because because he's been adultified, right? He has been exposed to different things, and it's going to be such a beautiful journey to see Malik all over the course of the 3 books be like, just to be a kid, right? He was told in book 1, I won't spoil it for people, but at the end, a special character tells him, like, just go be a kid, like, go to college, have fun, get into a little bit of trouble, not too much trouble, but like, just be a kid. And so I think that's what Malik is doing for Tay. Tay doesn't have magic, but to see Malik, Malik is so, sometimes he with his magic, he's like, I don't like it. It caused me so much pain. But Tay is like, dude, it's a part of you. It's beautiful. It makes me feel safe. And it's such a beautiful, again, Tay is 12 going on 30. It's like, and Malik is looking at him like, dude, you got a lot of wisdom for for a 12-year-old, right? And it's just such a beautiful relationship that I wanted. And also, we don't get to see Black boys be tender with each other and vulnerable, right? Um, I really wanted to add that layer with them too as well, to show the tenderness and the vulnerability of Malik and Tay. And they get to crack jokes with each other, but also they get to say I love you to each other.
Yeah.
Without it making it weird, right? Like, Malik is like this older brother, slash father figure to Tay, and it's just like everything he does is in the protection of Tay. He's like, I'll move across the country, just to protect you, But yeah, it's such a. I'm glad that people are starting to pick up on it because that's the core, that's the heart of the story, is their relationship.
Yeah, from the beginning, I was just like, I love this relationship. And I mean, these two, they're family, but like they're found family a little bit too, but it's a really,
Mm,
really important part of the story. So that's cool though that your nephew and also yourself like kind of inspired a little bit about that.
yeah,
And I know I said
yeah,
about Tay, I was like, he's someone who like had to grow up too soon, but Malik did too. Like they're both
yeah.
two young adults, young men that had to grow up too fast. I want to talk a little bit about your cover because, sorry, and I have it,
Mm,
like freaking
yes,
amazing. Like it is just,
yeah,
I'm obsessed. It is, I don't know, it really captures what the book is in so many different ways, like from the setting and the magic and who Malik is. Like it's just really, really amazing how it captures that. How involved were you in that process, or were you like, no, I don't want to be involved, this is my Pinterest board?
Oh no, I was very involved. It was so funny before the ink dried on the paper on the contract, right? I was like, can we put in that I have final say over the cover? Because my non-negotiable was I have to have a Black boy on the cover, and it has to be him and him only. Because I think book covers are very political, right? Because you go in and you see, and I remember that feeling of going into we had Books a Million. I know Barnes and Noble was like the big thing, but I don't know if people know what Books a Million is. But we had books. Oh yeah, you Florida girl, so you know it. So going into Books a Million, right? I used to love the Percy Jackson cover. I think from what I remember, I think it was like he he had like black hair. He had like the sword pen or something like that. And he was standing on like I don't know if it was like the Empire State Building or something like that, but I don't remember, but it was so cool. It was so striking to see that cover. But I remember going into the Barnes and Noble Barnes and Noble in Burbank, and I was like, there's no Black boys on the cover. And so going to my publisher, I said, that's my non-negotiable. I have to have a dark-skinned Black boy in a hoodie, and he's casting his magic, and it's so weird. I literally dreamt of my book cover. I remember I still got the text from my group chat with my friends. I was like, I took a nap and I said, yo, I saw my book cover. I saw me holding my book. I was like, it's blue. And I was like, all I see is a Black boy standing in front of a tree. I don't know what he's doing, but he's standing in front of a tree doing something, casting his magic. And so as we were going through the different iterations, because, we hire different artists and just making sure the artists can capture the book cover. So shout out to Hillary D. Wilson, who designed Legendborn, and shout out to Liz Dresner, who designed like the candles and the magic and the title. I literally sent my editor and my agents, I don't even know how many emails, but it had to be like Pinterest board. I sent them a Spotify playlist. I was like, this is what I want, the movie posters. And so as we were going through it, my publishers, they were like, we want him to be this and we want him to be that. And I said, can y'all give me a few days? Give me a few days and let me come up with something. I called my friend up, Oliver, who played Malik in the short film. I said, yo, can I borrow you for a Saturday? He's like, what's up? I said, I hired a photographer. Shout out to Alicia Barnett, amazing Black woman photographer. I said, we're going to go rent out a studio and we're going to go shoot some photos. I bought like over 100 candles. I bought like some real spell books from like this real magic store. And we had to light each candle practically. So shout out to the Thornley Arts Building in Hollywood, because they didn't kick us out, because I was surprised we didn't set off the alarms. And so we shot my friend Oliver, the actor, we shot him doing just different stuff. I was directing him. I was like, act like you're casting a really powerful spell. And we captured him. He did something with his hands hovering over the candles. And we sent all those photos to the designers and the publishers. And at first it was like, this feels too horror or too old. And then they came back to me. They was like, they chose the photo with his hands hovering over the candles. And so the designer took that photo and designed Malik. And then she was like, what is he wearing? And I was remembering having a conversation during the Trayvon Martin trial with my mom. She was like, don't wear that hoodie outside. And I was like, it's literally freezing in Alabama. I can't wear a hoodie. She was like, well, take it off when you get in the car. Because I was like, oh, because hoodie and a Black boy wearing a hoodie is criminalized. It's adultified, right? So I was like, I told the designer, I said, I want him to wear a hoodie because of Trayvon Martin. And I was like, you're going to see this Black boy standing on the same soil that his ancestors fought and bled on, and he's going to be casting his magic. He is literally the epitome of his ancestors' wildest dreams. And then Liz Dresner, she designed the blue bottles because that's from the Hoodoo faith. She designed the Spanish moss tree, which we all know in the South, the Spanish moss tree is very famous. But also from Billie Holiday's Strange Fruit, we know what the Spanish moss tree represented in Black history. And it's dark and it's very it's just very dark. But we reclaiming that. That's why I named it Blood at the Root, because we reclaiming that and we're putting it into the hands of the 17-year-old kid. And so that's how I came up with my book cover. I literally was like, this is what I want. This is what I need. And I can't go forward until I get what I want. And it turned out exactly how I dreamt it. It's weird.
That's so cool though. But hearing you say that now, just it makes it even, I don't know, more special, like the attention to detail and how you truly thought of every single component that is in that. Like, it's just so special. And I mean, I hope you are like very proud, and yeah, you can be like, yeah, I made it and I did that. So I hope, I mean, yeah, there's like,
I
it's
think,
not
I'm very
arrogance. You're like, you're really proud of something incredible that you did.
I'm really proud. It was really, for me, when it was on GMA, right? And they had the big blow up of it. I was like, kids are going to see this.
Yeah.
Yeah, Black boys who are in Mississippi, who are in Florida, Georgia, like maybe in, the South Carolinas, who are thinking like, man, I don't see myself. And then you never know, that might be the one book that, that saves them from like, I'm going to not give up reading.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pursue this. I may want to teach one day. I may want to teach English or literature or creative writing one day. But this book might save me, and the imagery, because imagery is so powerful. I just want every single Black boy to walk into the bookstore and they're like, whoa, that kid, I'm already hearing it. That kid looks just like me. He got a hoodie on and it's a fantasy. What? What's this story? And then they crack it open like, oh my gosh, like, this is me. Malik is me. Tay is me, or D'Angelo is me, or Saban, who's the non-binary queer character. I'm like, this is me. And so that's powerful, and that's why I wanted that on there. And I'm very proud to see it plastered everywhere. I'm like, yeah, plaster it everywhere.
Yes.
Because, like, you know what I'm saying? Like it like, we want that imagery out there to showcase to young Black boys and young Black men to say, you can too. Be the hero of your own story, and you could be on the book cover as well. So yeah.
Are the wheels already turning for your next two covers coming out?
Yes, I haven't heard from them in a while. I'm pretty sure we're gonna get it probably later this summer, but I do have a sketch of book 2, and it's just as powerful. It's Malik by himself again, and I don't want to give too much away, but you're going to see an evolution of Malik. So you see Malik on book 1, right? But then now you're going to see him. Oh, okay. You could tell he's been in college for a couple of months, and now he's getting the bearings of, like, Cayman University. But you're going to see some really cool magic that he's casting on book 2, and it's going to be a different color scale. And because I'm also about colors. Because I was like, blue. I was like, that's if anybody watched the film Moonlight that won the Academy Award, there's a line in the movie that says, in Moonlight, Black boys look blue. So that's why I wanted book 1 to be blue. But now book 2, I want it to be a different color, because it's talking about transitional periods and royalty and ancestry. So yeah, I definitely got a sketch. I don't know what book 3 is gonna. I have an idea, but I know that's literally I think that's before the horse and the cart. Because I don't even have a draft of book 3, but I have an idea, because that's the final, so I'm going to be very protective and very precious about the final book of the series. So yeah, I definitely have book 2 though. It's cool. I can't wait to share it.
Yes. Can you tell me too, like, what are you envisioning as the time span of his college career? Like, does book 3, is that like a graduation? He's now complete, or what is that? Is it all like freshman year, everything is happening? What does that look like?
Yeah, I do see. So there's this is not a spoiler, but the end of book 2 and into book 3, there's going to be a big time jump.
Okay.
I do see some graduations happening, possibly nuptials, because everybody. I remember going to college and I was like, everybody get married. I'm like, you're 21, okay? Like, because I went to a Christian college, so people literally was getting engaged like sophomore year. I was like, okay, hey, love, like, let's go. So yeah, you're definitely going to be seeing some graduations. Again, I haven't wrote the first draft of book 3, so people are like, no spoiler. I'm like, not because I don't know what's going to happen in book 3. But I do see that. But I also see a character taking over at the end. So there's a spinoff. I do have a spinoff idea of Blood at the Root, and we're going to see a different character going to the. I'm not going to say who, but definitely. So I see all of that at the conclusion of the Batter trilogy. So yeah, definitely some graduations, some new romances, some nuptials, and all of that. So yeah,
those are some good teasers.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm glad I asked the question, even if you weren't supposed to give it away.
No, there's no spoilers, but I'm like, again, because book 2, I'm in the middle of it. I'm like, I'm over here. Before I interview, I was over here on the couch in the living room, like, this sucks. But just get through it. You know, so literally working on book 2 as I'm right now.
Yes.
That's awesome. We're going to keep an eye out for it for sure, and everything else you have going on. Megan, is there anything else you wanted to ask? Because I know I always like cut you off.
No, it's okay. I love to ask this question because Bree and I, we both love music. We've started creating a Spotify playlist like for our podcast, like anything that we use on social media, I've started adding to a playlist. So, and I know you mentioned part of your cover design, you sent over a playlist, but are you like, do you listen to music while you're working? Does that inspire your work? How does Spotify work with you?
Listen, Spotify is great. I know there's this competition between Spotify and Apple Music, but I love that Spotify you can create different playlists and you can name them. You could add a photo to. It's really cool. So I do have a Blood at the Root playlist on Spotify. To warn you, I think it's almost 100 hours of music. Well, no, again, building this playlist for years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because music is definitely, there's some hip hop, there's some gospel, there's jazz. There's a myriad of like different type of musical genres, and also just music that my character listens to, but also that I think that speaks to the scene and the theme of the books. I also like to add songs in there. I forgot what random song. I think it was like a Sarah Bareilles song that I was listening to the other day.
Yeah.
Gravity. I think it's Sarah Bareilles' Gravity. Is that the song? I think. But I was like, oh, this speaks to what Malik is gonna, there's some new interest. But I'm like, oh, this song speaks to like kind of like their friendship. So it's just that's how I kind of curate playlists. I'm such a nerd when it comes to that. And so yes, I do have to listen to it. I also listen to like focus music. Because sometimes my brain, I'm such a dreamer, and like not only when I'm writing, but I literally be inside the world, and then I'll be daydreaming about Cayman, and then I'll look up, I'm like, oh wow, it's been 45 minutes and I'm still stuck on the same paragraph. So I have to like listen to focus music to make me zone in. So yeah, music is very, very important to me. Developing the book to kind of like get inside the character's head, because Malik loves Kendrick, he loves J. Cole. But also I'm from the South, so I know a lot of Baptist music, right? A lot of church music informs a lot of the background of like just living in the South. So I add stuff like that, and also jazz, because now Malik is going to be introduced to a different type of stuff now. And he's in New Orleans, so the brass bands, so he has to listen to that. So yeah, so I definitely listen to a lot of music because it puts me into the world. It helps me filter out the outside noise, but also it literally puts me in the world of Blood at the Root to navigate and set the tone for different scenes. And also I have like indie artists, like my friends who make music, and I put their songs in the book. And people ask me like, oh, what's that song between Malik and Alexis when they were kissing? That one scene. I was like, oh, that's my roommate's song, Brown Eyes. Go stream it. Because I just, indie artists deserves, especially indie music artists deserves the love and support as well.
Yes.
So, I definitely put a lot of my friends' music into the book as well, even though you're reading it, but like, I'm like, go look it up, and it's a real song. So yeah, I listen to all of that.
That's amazing. I saved it. I found it.
I was gonna say, Bree, are we able to like link it as when we like post this too? Because that'd be really cool to share.
It's public. Yeah.
Yeah. We should be able to like put it in a story when the episode
If
comes
you're
out.
okay with
Oh,
that.
and
Of
I
course,
can link
yeah,
it in the podcast notes too. So
yeah, of course. People on TikTok ask me all the time, like, do you have a musical playlist? I think I may want to make a post about it. Just like, if you
yeah.
like Blood It Through, you might like the playlist, and like it can
Yeah.
give you like a sense of the world as well. So,
Oh, you
so yeah,
should for
definitely,
sure.
please. I think that's cool, right? Like it's such a cool, like nerdy writer moment,
I don't think
Uh,
people well, and like for the podcast too, we'll pick like one song for the book. Megan does most of it. I'm like, what song do you think? But I don't think people know that for a lot of the books, if we put a song with it, like we've thought about what that song is and like did we think it matched like what the book was. So, and then credit to Megan for making it a playlist that we're just going to continue to build on. So
it's a skill. But it's a cool. It doesn't feel. It's a skill, but it doesn't feel like a skill. Sometimes skills you have to like work at it and work at it and work at it to be. But like sometimes it's like music speaks to you, like right, like there's sometimes when you're sad or when you're happy, you listen to music, and you're like, man, this person is singing about what I'm like exactly what I'm going through right now, and that can offer up healing. That can offer up like just to lift you out of that. We all have those moments, right, where we're just really sad and we're just not want to get out of bed. Sometimes music helps with that, and
Yeah.
I really appreciate music, and it's such an important factor when I'm writing anything, books, plays, screenplays. It's such an important thing for me to have.
absolutely, I agree. You can
Yeah,
just feel it sometimes, like when you hear a song and you just absolutely feel either something at the present or even like a memory too, and you just
yeah,
it completely
yeah,
captures however you felt in a specific moment too. It really can transport you, just like reading can. I mean, I know you said
mhm,
you're like I read a lot as to escape and do that too, and I think that's always why I've liked fantasy too, is because well, it's fun too, but
yeah,
you just the escape part and being transported to a totally different world is so much fun. And
yeah,
so, but it's important for no matter what that fantasy world is that people can see themselves in those
yeah.
stories.
Yeah,
So,
everybody, like it's really cool to see yourself like I don't know if y'all seen Damsel on Netflix.
yeah,
What's her name? That was a cool movie.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was a
yeah.
really I love how they
What
took
is
it.
her? Oh,
Oh, she's on Stranger Things, right? Don't she play
she
11?
is. What is her name? Why can't I
Oh,
love her. I think she's so cute.
Millie Bobby
Millie
Brown.
Millie
Bobby
Bob
Brown,
yeah,
yes.
it's such a cool and I'm pretty sure a lot of women probably can see themselves in that character, right? Because she literally gets to be the hero. Like it takes a damsel in distress trope and
Yep.
they literally flip it on its. It's so
Mhm.
cool. I really enjoyed that movie. Like I thought it was such a cool movie. But yeah, everybody, right? Like Asian fantasy, Latinx fantasy, Black fantasy, everybody. Like it's just yeah, because that's why fantasy was created. I don't think we should focus on one sector of people in fantasy. I think everybody should be reflected because it's such a cool genre.
Mhm.
You get to
Yeah,
have fun
you
and do
do.
anything that you want, in that genre. So yeah,
That's awesome. Well, LaDarrion, it is truly like an honor to be able to talk with you and for you to come on and be so transparent and honest and share your story, which it is inspiring on so many different levels. And
thank you.
we appreciate it so much that we were just one stop on your journey to talk more about it.
Yeah,
And we can't wait to see what's next.
yeah. Thank y'all for having me. Thank you for letting me talk. And it means a lot when people are, in communion with Blood at the Root and loving it and supporting it. So thank you for supporting the book um, and giving me an opportunity to tell my story. Like you never know. Somebody might watch this podcast or listen to it, or is it watch and listen?
We just audio.
Okay, if that's all right. If somebody might listen to it on their way to work, or and they like, and they're writing, and they're like, "I'm about to give up," and then you just again, you never know. So keep doing what y'all are doing because you never know who you're inspiring. To keep going and to keep working at that craft. So thank y'all for having me.
Thank you. Well, really
Thank
quick
you.
before we go, can you plug
Yeah,
yourself where people can find you?
of course. I'm on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and I guess you have to say Threads now. At it's LaDarrion. On Twitter, I talk a lot of ish. So, but I'm funny too. I post a lot of memes. TikTok. It's LaDarrion. Instagram, I try to be inspirational on Instagram. So all platforms at it's LaDarrion. Please follow me, and yeah, let's talk about Blood at the Root.
Yes.
Let's do it. And we'll link all of those in the podcast notes too, so that everyone can get to them easily. All right.
Yes.
Thank you again. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank y'all.
Thank you.